First of all, I'd wanted to take the time to thank everybody that's here. Specifically, we'll start with the volunteers that help out through these events. For whatever reason that you're here and you see the volunteers that we have, most of the time in red shirts, please stop and just give them a thank you for what they do. They're the kind of the mortar that keeps these events going. So a little round of applause for all of our volunteers. Additionally, for all the people that have come here, many are NCM members. Many in this room are most likely lifetime members. Maybe it's a little bit of a chance for a plug if you're not a lifetime member. We do encourage that, and you do get some extra goodies if you become a lifetime member. So thanks to all the members of the museum that have come back and supported the events too. Round of applause, right? As we go down the list, I think it's very, very important also to recognize the NCM staff, starting with Sharon and what she refers to as the KLT or the Key Leadership Team, and everybody that's here on a daily basis. These events don't happen by themselves, and as you can see over the course of the last few days, they're very well organized, and we're not done. We have today, and then we have this evening. If you're going to stay for the Hall of Fame event, that's going to be fantastic also in a great venue. So thanks, Sharon, and for the whole NCM team. And then I guess the last two that I would say would be the museum board of directors, that many of them are here in the front row, that you know. And as important, the holding company board, there's Adam, Mike Newlander, and a few others that are here. Chuck is a member of that also. These are the individuals that are helping all of our for-profit business components. So they're contributing every day. They're running the insurance agency, to be specific, and they're running the Motorsports Park. Big parts of our business and kind of our campus. I think that got the biggest round of applause. Way to go, Mr. Newlander. Okay, so the reason that we're here is that we're going to have an update. This is what we do when we get together. The idea is that we can share with you some of the things that are going on, and we also take the time to reinforce some of the reasons why we're doing the things that we do. So if you've been to one of these sessions before, you might see some of the slides recycled. That's by intent. It's not that we just didn't want to reinvent something. We want to reinforce what the board of directors and the staff at the museum are doing and why we're doing it. So with that said, first of all, this vision statement, when you take a look at this, we want to be the epicenter of Corvette community's enduring spirit, serve as the preeminent repository for this American icon, and operate with uncompromising standards while remaining focused on strategic growth that assures our financial future. I can't tell you how long it took the board to figure out that one sentence, and it's a mouthful, and and every word that's in there is very deliberate. It goes through from the car down to the business, because in the absence of a very good run business, we have no chance to be here. So that, I think, is a very important one. From our mission, the mission is to educate worldwide audiences on the evolution of the Corvette, America's sports car, through collection, preservation, and the celebration of its legacy. So then you start thinking with this mission, if you haven't been to the Sky Dome, this is the 70th year of celebration for the Corvette. That's a perfect example. So yes, it's a very interesting thing to go visit, and yes, it serves to the mission of the museum. Additionally, the museum is a 501c3, or it's a nonprofit, and we're obligated to do some of these things to maintain that nonprofit status, and we do it with pleasure. We do it with pleasure for a number of reasons. Our brand promise is to operate with the highest standards, create an exceptional experience that results in lasting memories, and be the world's premier repository for all things Corvette. So all of this speaks for itself. This is what we are here to do, and this is what all of you are here. Whether you're here for the experience, or you're here for the history, or what have you. This is what our brand promise is. So this is we'll call it an organizational chart, but it's important for all of you to understand there's some complexity in running this business that we have. You know, the museum in and of itself, on any given year, it's a $23 to $24 million operation. The track is about a $6 million operation. The insurance agency is about a $2.5, $3 million operation. So you add all that up, and it's pretty complex just in the volume. But then when you look at this chart, it starts off at the top. I happen to be the chair right now, and we have Glenn as the immediate past chair. We keep Glenn, who was the chair in the last term. We intentionally have the chair stay with the board for continuity reasons. And actually last year we made a change to our bylaws where, I mean, you could call it the past chair. So Lon Helton, who was the chair before Glenn, he's still with us too. And while we move people in and out of the board, it's very important for the leadership of the board to have that continuity because of the business complexity that we have. Additionally, we have then the secretary, which is Mike LaRocca, seated over by Lon. I think everybody loves Mike, evidently. He's got a great smile and great hair, I guess. Well, hey, sorry, Harlan, right? Next there we have the treasurer, which is Neil Watanabe, and he also watches over our finance committee. And then the chair-elect Kay, who is seated down here in the front row also. My term actually ends in December, and next year you will have the pleasure of having Kay up here give this report. It's going to be fun, right, Kay? Okay, and then very important, I would say, is also the committee structure that we have, and I will take the time to plug Sharon for bringing this to our board. Not long after she came to us as the leader of the museum, she said, oh, we need to have all of these committees. And I'll share with you, as the chair at the time, Glenn was technically the chair for that minute, and then it quickly transitioned. I'm thinking to myself, I don't know what we need these committees for. And then she said, and we need more people on the board. And it's like, I don't know if we need more people on the board. Well, over the course of the last 2 years, I'm a firm believer that that was very good advice, Sharon. We have these committees, and just imagine for the education committee, the finance, earned revenue, contributed revenue, business integrations, collections, acquisitions, and it could be in the future we add a couple more. We have these individuals that are on our board. We're all very good at what we do on a daily basis. We get together 4 times a year. Having these committees, let's just say looking at finance, gives us the ability to have a good chunk of the board understand and preview information that's very important, even before we get into the boardroom. So from my standpoint, as the chair, reducing the tension in the boardroom is really kind of handy. We like it. And I think that that's one of the unintended, it was probably an intended consequence. However, at the time, you know, we didn't have the committee structure. And so now we have that. And we spend time, probably on average, each committee is together 4 or 5 additional times per year, maybe more. Finance committee might even be more frequent than that. So that's really working. So we just don't come and you know, get access to these events. There's a lot of work that's done outside that. Additionally, we start at the top here with the NCM Foundation Board of Directors. With Sharon, we have what I refer to, I kind of refer to it as the staff, so it's like your direct reports. You may hear this KLT term. It's a key leadership team. These are the individuals that are working at the museum every day. So we have Mandy Thomas in HR and business operation. Brian Hunley is our finance Director, Brian Baker, Director of Education and Community Outreach, Ryan Eichler is Marketing and Communications, Bryce Burklow is Director of Events and Building Services, Stephanie Morel, Director of Sales and Guest, and then we are looking for a Director of Collections. So once again, we have a very determined structure on how we run the business, and all of these individuals know their part that they play in the organization. A very important part of our business is, how we're doing financially. And while we can, from this perspective, I can see cars outside. I can see this GT3 R car, which I need to get a closer look at before it leaves. There's all the things that you see out in the museum that have been changing. And Sharon's going to go through in depth the investments that have been made in the last couple of years. But it's important for all of you to understand how we're performing financially. So when you take a look at this chart, first of all, 2019, 2020, 2021, and 22, and then where are we in 2023? The information that we have here shows what we have on revenue and expense for both the museum, which is the NCM, and the holding company, which is NCMH. And as a reminder, the holding company consists of both the insurance agency and the Motorsports Park. Those, by definition, for tax reasons, they must be a for-profit event, organization. They can't fall under the nonprofit for a number of reasons. That, once again, the complexity of the business drives these things for very good reasons. So I'm going to take you over simply. I'm going to start you in 2019, and what you can see. The red bar, $18.9 million, was revenue. The expense was $15.6 million. You can all do the math. The difference in those two numbers, you can call it very easily termed profit, okay? Meaning that our business is viable. And there's more ways to calculate it with EBITDA, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to bother you with that. Nonetheless, you can look at every set of bars. When the gray bar, the red bar is taller than the gray bar, the business is good, right? And this is one of the things that I think is a very important point because, we have had our challenges in the Motorsports Park over the years. So go down to the next set of bars. Generally speaking, our insurance agency has been very, very rock solid. Adam, thank you for that. But historically, the Motorsports Park has had its challenges. Okay, so when you look at that red bar next to the gray bar is taller than the red bar. It's not what we want. That was a short 3.5 years ago. Now, COVID happened. There's a little thing, the tornado that ripped through the city of Bowling Green. For all intents and purposes, it destroyed Holly Tower. It ripped up every building that we had over there, and a majority of the assets were also destroyed. Vehicles, we had customer vehicles stored there. It was a very, very, very bad experience. But I would fast forward over to 2022. What's important here? Starting from the left, the red bar, $24 million in revenue, $19 million in expense. Generally speaking, $5 million in excess earned for this museum, which is fantastic. Quick calculation, 24 million, 5 million, that's right about 20%. And while it's important that we have this, what I refer to as a fortress balance sheet, because we do that, we have the ability to do the things that Sharon's going to share with you in the next few minutes. So that's fantastic. However, in my opinion, what's even more fantastic is what happens in the smaller bars, yet as important. In 2022, we have this trend where we're starting to grow more and more the margins or the profit associated with our for-profit business, the Motorsports Park and the NCMI. And I'm very happy to say that with the challenges, the Motorsports Park has been here for 8 years. In the last 2 years or so, with after the tornado, the recovery has been a big challenge. this year we're turning the corner, and Mike Newlander and Greg Waldron, leadership matters in this space. And I would give credit for Greg, who is here. Greg, put your hand up, because not everybody might know who you are. Greg's over there running the Motorsports Park, and he's literally, for the last 2 years, been running it out of a tent. And this year, it's turning a profit. So congratulations to Greg and Mike Newlander and Adam on that side. So with all, use this analogy with an engine, we are firing on all cylinders. Now we just need to put nitrous oxide on it or something, turbocharge it. And that's what we're doing. So we're super, super healthy, and that makes me very happy, and it should make all of you very, very happy too, because we want this place to, be here forever and be very, very healthy. Okay. So the 2022 to 2028 strategic objectives. This was also the result of one of our board meetings that we had we were out at Barrett-Jackson a year and a half ago, when we sat down and we had to decide what do we really want to have as our focus. Supporting our mission and our vision. Number one, AAM accreditation. This would be the Smithsonian-like accreditation that you would have for any very professional organization. So if you're in manufacturing, it's ISO. Depending on what you are doing, that's the parallel that you would have. So when you have AAM accreditation, then we have Smithsonian-level controls for all the things that we have, watching them coming in and making sure that we're preserving them as we should. The next one is become a cherished community asset. And when we talk about the community, it really goes beyond just the city of Bowling Green. It's the Corvette community. So, but it's also, we do live in Bowling Green, so we do need to make sure that we're working with our local city leaders, and we're embedding ourselves into the fabric of where we live. And at the same time, we need to embed ourselves into the fabric of the people that we serve, which are the members, which are all of you. So grow and diversify earned and contributed revenue streams. Just as a quick note, earned revenue is events like this. We charge for people to come and attend these events. If you go to the grill, the food's not free. That's the earned revenue. The contributed revenue would be in the form of donations. So we do appreciate donations. If you're inclined to make a donation, you can do that today. And Sharon would gladly accept that. There's a lot of very, very, very generous people, maybe here in the audience, or all of you are all generous. I mean, you're generous with your time at the very least. But we have people that love this place so much that they're willing to invest in it with their hard-earned money. The last one is intentional collections growth. Generally speaking, we really don't like to go and buy things. Something else that I personally have learned from Sharon over time. As a museum, you can't get the reputation that you're just going to go and buy the things that you want to have in the collection. It's a better model for a number of reasons to have them donated. So we have a very active list of the cars that we know of and who has them and how can we talk to them, and maybe at some point in time they could be donated to the museum. So that's important to us. And the last one is targeting the new generation of Corvette enthusiasts. If you were here yesterday, Harlan, I think I'm going to get the number right, 54 years of age is the average age of the current Corvette owner. How much has that gone down in the last 3 or 4 years? I'm putting you on the spot. Since the C8 came in, maybe about 6 years. So previous to that, it was maybe 60. And there's all good reasons for that. The cars are very expensive. They are what they are. They're a sports car. And so it's not the case that people that are very young maybe can afford them. But we also have this number, Harlan, help me out, under 30 was 10% of our sales, something like that? Under 35 was roughly 10% of our sales, which is also fantastic. We're getting those people that might be purchasing something else. We need to get these younger generation people into this museum so that they can carry on the tradition and they can appreciate what we have, and that's one of the things that we think about. The last one is developing a master campus plan. When you listen to what Sharon has to say about the things that have been done in the course of the last couple of years, you're going to think of, why are you doing these different things? And I would say in two categories. There might be more, but I'm just going to say two. The first one, we got to take everything that we have, and we got to make sure that it's in really, really, really good shape, right? It doesn't make any sense to put an addition onto your house before you have your roof fixed on your current home, right? So think that, and then think upgrading what we currently have. And then I said maybe there's more. There is one more. What would we be doing in the future about other things that we could think about? So when we talk about that campus plan, that's what we're thinking about. And when you go through and look at Sharon's materials, you'll kind of understand why. Okay, now I'm going to turn it over to, I had all the good news, and Sharon's going to have the better news about all the stuff that we've been doing over the course of the last couple of years.
Thanks, Kai. All right, so as he's alluded to, I'm going to walk you through what's been happening over the course of the last 2 years. And I'm excited to say that my 2-year anniversary was yesterday. So we've been rather busy. Yeah, my first day on the job, I came in here and met a whole bunch of folks and you guys, and they were like, okay, to the boardroom, and I was like, oh, cool. And one of the very first things we talked about was actually a recent acquisition. So most of you who've been around here for a while can remember over in that general direction, there was this really not attractive looking building, which was the Country Hearth Hotel. And so literally on my first day, walked in, the purchase had been made, the decision had been made before I came on board, and they all looked at me and said, what do you want to do with it? Day one. And I'm like, tear it down. So we did so very thoughtfully and with a lot of great community effort with our local fire department for training exercises and other things like that. We harvested everything out of the building that could be recycled or repurposed, and it really was a great first effort with the team. And so we purchased that property, $1.6 million, not a cheap investment, but critical. Think about now what the beautiful view is. We don't have anything obstructing that at all, much less we've got other ideas of what we can do as we continue on around the curve. So it's all about controlling everything around you. Whoops, I'm so sorry. And of course, I'm so sorry. That supports the master campus plan, right? Is control all the land around you so that as you want to grow and develop, you know what's going on, right? So you probably remember the Corvette Cafe, a very great 50s-style diner that served this museum for quite some time. And we decided to give it an upgrade. And now we have the Stingray Grill. And then we spun off and did Stingray To Go. And so with both of those together, we probably have about $155,000 invested in both. You can see some of the gross revenues since we've done those things. I love the one, of course, with the To Go. We only spent $5,000 and we've made $107,000. That's good ROI, I'd say. And then, of course, you probably have noticed, too, that the Stingray is just getting busier and busier and busier. In the summer months when we are really at our best, you pretty much have to have a reservation or you're going to at least wait 20 to 30 minutes. Some of you, I hope, also caught the Guy Fieri show, the Great American Road Trip. He came to Bowling Green and featured us in the Motorsports Park. It was amazing. You can't pay enough money for that kind of exposure. We had to sit on that little nugget for a year. He came here in the June of 22 before it ran on television this June in 2023. So a great story there, obviously. Clearly, earned revenue. That's what this is all about. That's why we make these investments. So that was 21. And 22, more land. So you're looking at an aerial shot, obviously, of the Motorsports Park, and this little triangle you see outlined here in yellow, great road frontage leading right up to the Motorsports Park. That was not in our control. pretty important to get control of that. We always talk about we didn't want to, Greg, I think, says, do you want a Dunkin' Donuts on the corner, or do we want to control that? And so we had the opportunity to get it. It cost us $550,000 for 5.3 acres, but now we control it. So basically, when you go right under I-65, when you're growing over there on Porter Pike, from the corner all the way to our entrance is now in our control. Part of that master campus plan. This little triangle here was just an issue we needed to clean up on the backside of the Motorsports Park with the berm and other things, and so it was just a nice way to really get that outlined, $25K to get that taken care of. It was just one of those things we needed to do. And then as Kai mentioned, we all know about the tornado. Day 101 for me. 101. Woke up to that. And so as Greg and the team scrambled through, us all getting over there with chainsaws, getting the thing back up and rolling, Greg had the idea to secure this type of dwelling because we had to have a place for our guests to go, our team to go, retail sales, everything had to be moved somewhere. He did the research, came up with this amazing opportunity. We rented it for the first little bit because we had to move quickly. But it was very evident that if we were going to operate out of that tent, obviously it had to be of the highest quality. I equate this to a PGA level, right? If you were going to a tournament, at a PGA tournament, this is the type of tenting that you would see. He did a great job doing the research and getting it here quickly. And then we quickly understood we needed to go ahead and invest in it. It would not be smart to rent it for as long as we knew we were probably going to need it. And he absolutely had the right idea. So it comes with a pretty nice little cost. That's also with flooring, air conditioning, and heating. But the good news is that it can contribute to his current revenue stream, which is one of the reasons why they're doing so well. There is a nice place for our guests to go and for us to operate out of, but it also is an asset. Now what do we do with it? And I've already started thinking about ideas. I'm sure Greg's already got ideas, and we have some thoughts about what we'll do with it. If nothing else, we can always turn around and sell it if that's what we want to do. But I think we've got some pretty good ideas of what to do with it in the future so that it can continue to make us money. So a whole new HVAC and dehumidification system was purchased and put into this building in the course of several months. As you can imagine, a building this large, it takes a while to get these types of things installed. Why do we do it? Yes, we need to make sure it's well conditioned in the building and heated and all of that. But the dehumidification is really important to the collection. It cuts down on dust, it cuts down on other elements to our vehicles and other artifacts. This is critical, and it's very important in our AAM accreditation. We monitor humidity levels here and in other storage facilities where we have our collections down at the Fast Collections building and here within the museum itself. This is a very critical component as a great museum. You guys have probably, I hope, all been through Driven by Design. As we move through and change our exhibition program, it's very important to keep upgrading the facilities as we do so. Investing in great casework, our turntables, better lighting, painting the ceilings out black so things really pop, upgrading our flooring. I mean, it goes on and on. About $150K was spent on just that section, but that's a very large section of the museum. Most of you, I know, have talked to me about your happiness with the upgrades we've made to the store. You can see the picture here on the left of the store when I arrived, very dark and really cramped. Older type of fixtures, not the current shopping experience that we've all come to be kind of spoiled by when we're out in our actual brick and mortar stores. So we've made many, many changes to the store, and they continue on. We have a new store manager. We actually added a buyer to our program here. Lots of transformation in our museum store, and it certainly has translated in great sales as well. About $250,000 over the course of really the last couple of years, not all done at once. And we're going to keep investing in that because it turns right back to us, and I'll talk some more about that too. NCMI. Most of you probably remember, Adam walked us through this the other day of when they started out in a room, a single room, and then there were 2 people in that room, and I think maybe 3 actually wound up in this one office space, and then it finally moved out. And eventually when I got here, it was in the cove where you see the simulators now. They were in there, as my granny would say, stacked up like cordwood. I truly do not know how they managed in there. I walked in and there was no room for another thing in there, and they all sat at their cubicles, or as Greg has called it, officles. New term, officles. And they had headsets on so they wouldn't hear each other for sound canceling, and be able to manage all of these volumes of calls. And I mean volume of calls. I don't know how they did it, and they always smiled while doing it. And eventually it became very clear we were holding them back. They needed more agents, they needed more space, and so we decided to take them off campus. Not a decision that we loved, but it was one out of necessity. So hopefully most of you know that they do still have a permanent office in our library and archives lobby, so that there is a great presence there, and it really has worked out beautifully, because that's where all of our delivery customers are doing their paperwork when they come in. We know that's a great opportunity to sell those customers on insurance when they're taking delivery, etc. They're not far away. They're right on the other side of Bowling Green, just about 15 minutes from here. Of course, just about everything in Bowling Green's about 15 minutes apart. I love that. I don't miss Nashville traffic, in case you're wondering. So it has worked out very well. These guys, when we say we entered into a 2-year lease, got a great deal on office space, and Adam and Sam and Mike and Greg and everybody went over there to pitch in to upgrade it. The $50,000 that we actually spent to upgrade it could have been twice that number, but they did it themselves. So I don't want that to get lost on anybody, because they worked really hard to make it beautiful. We took the board over there earlier this week. It's gorgeous. Very well done, and they are really doing great work over there. Their sales are just climbing, which is exactly what he said he would do if we just gave him a little more space, and it's working. So we love those earned revenue growths. So in 23, here we are. It's now September, which is hard to believe. So some other things we decided we needed to do, and again, this goes to our AAM accreditation. We really needed to upgrade our alarm systems and overall general security. Unfortunately, we all understand what world we're living in today. We're right off of a major interstate. We are who we are. And so we've really worked hard to increase our overall safety and security, not only of the building and its collections, certainly for you, our guests, and our staff. So having this was a pretty small price to pay, so we invested in a much more upgraded alarm system. Same with Studio X. When we started building out the McMichael Education Gallery, which we'll talk about here in a moment, Brian Baker had come on team a few months into the construction, and he said, "Where are we putting a car?" And I went, "Oh." And so he came up with the idea of going out the back and adding on what would be a historically significant space called Studio X. I didn't know that story. And so Brian imparted that upon me, and I said, "You know what, that's a heck of an idea. Let's see how inexpensively we can do it." And he said, "It won't be expensive. Studio X wasn't fancy. We can do it and make it a great replication and add that experience to our education gallery." So we did that for $23,000. And now we're able to move different cars in and out for our educational purposes, and that is a good thing. So I said we were going to talk about the Ed Gallery. So when you look back at these photos of what it was before, and you look at the picture in the middle there, it's almost hard to remember what that hallway looked like, actually. And then I think we've maybe removed this picture, but if you can remember the former kids zone, it was kind of more of a toddler space. And it certainly served its purpose, but I knew we could do a lot better. And so we repurposed this entire area. It went from like 850 square feet of a kids area into now what is almost 2,500 square feet. And through the generous gift of the McMichaels and our own investment as well, we now have what is now the McMichael Education Gallery, and it is a beautiful space. And we have served how many kids already, Brian? Like 15,000 guests have already come into our new gallery. Isn't that wonderful? And we are getting a great groundswell here locally because there is no children's museum here, there's no science museum here, so we get to fill a big gap. So while I say that this targets our new enthusiasts, right? We want to grow that next generation. It hits this one, it hits that cherished community asset, it hits a lot of our strategic objectives, and it's a real point of pride. Another part of that safety and security that I was referencing earlier is our access control area. So over the course of really 2 years, we've spent about $150,000. So you'll notice everywhere in the building now where we don't want guests or other people just to be able to wander off into, we now have access control. So that way we have our spaces very secure. And there'll be more of these types of things that we're going to continue to do as a great museum. And of course, this goes through our accreditation. The Sky Dome. How many of you watched the Sky Dome via social media change over the last, in the summer? Did anybody see it? Okay, well, I'm going to show you some pictures in case you didn't. The Sky Dome was pretty fraught with a lot of water leaks when I got here. It had been happening over a course of time. You know, the Sky Dome certainly is not new, and so the gaskets around each of those panels, all of that, it wears and tears, just like the roof on your own home. And so we decided we'd better get something under control, or we were never going to make accreditation with that. We want to make sure our collection is well taken care of course, in the Sky Dome. And two, because we had the idea we were going to be hopefully convincing the board to let us invest in Skywall, we could not do an LED wall in there if we had water. So you can see it here throughout the process. It went through quite the transformation. People here locally were flipping out because it was not yellow. There were rumors flying all over town. What's going on over there? Are they going to leave it white? Is it going to stay gray? What color are they going to paint it now? I was kind of digging some purple personally, but anyway. So we decided that there was no way we could not put it back yellow. It is an icon. It is part of who we are. The city of Bowling Green actually even has the yellow Sky Dome as a part of its logo. So it is synonymous with the city of Bowling Green, and so we're happy about that. So that's why it's back to its traditional yellow. And I'm happy to report, as I'm sure Bryce would, with me, no leaks. And so you heard me talk about Skywall. We're real excited about it, as you can tell. Now, has everybody been in the Sky Dome? Yes. Yes. Amen. All right. So with that, it has been a transformational investment, a big one, but one that really sets us apart. When you're looking at $800 and almost $50,000, that's a lot of money. However, it has a lifespan of up to 20 years. Now, this is the same type of technology that you would see at any football stadium, basketball arena. If you've been to Las Vegas, I have, on Fremont Street, that whole computer-generated experience that you have there, same company. XLED is who we went to. We know that this is a game changer for the organization. It should help us generate a lot more traffic, a lot more interest, not only in the museum, but also in our private events, and we'll get to that in a second. So there's a few shots here of us doing the installation. So there's a video that will be coming out soon from the company XLED about the process, and I will invite you once it hits YouTube to watch it. But you can kind of tell in this left corner here, that wall is not one piece. Each panel is about this big. There's a whole bunch of them to make that wall go all the way around to fill in and make the beautiful video screen that you see in there today. It does require a lot of additional electricity and air conditioning. That thing emanates a lot of heat. So we've had to pipe in more air conditioning behind the wall, as well as other ways that we had to affix it to the permanent structure. So you may remember the red guardrail that went around the room. It served for the perfect place for us to affix this wall to, and we also were able to cover that up and make it look even more polished in the room. So do you like it? Yeah. So as I was saying, not only do we have this great experience now, very immersive with the sights and the sounds, and you're in it, right? You're right there with the car and all of its great history in this particular story that we're telling. But for our private events, this shows you a little bit of what we've done there. You see the GRREC. That's GREC here locally. This is a group that Brian is working closely with on our education gallery. But doing private events, we can do all kinds of things on that wall. So our team on that side, we started putting together a package of, if you would like your logo, it'll cost you this much. And if you would like to have this, it'll cost you this much. And so we have the ability now to add on and create more revenue even from this particular investment. You'll notice there at the bottom right, the Corvette Hall of Fame. If you've been in the Sky Dome, hopefully you were there long enough to see how now we are treating the Corvette Hall of Fame. Something that really bothered me was that we didn't have any way to be able to tell people, who are these people up on the wall? And why are they here? And so now we have a way to do that. And Robbie Berry, who is our digital content producer, along with the marketing team, put that together. And it is absolutely beautiful. I think Robbie's in the back. Is that you standing back there? I can't see. Yes. So give him a hand. He's doing beautiful work. All the videography work that you're seeing these days is coming from Robbie and Joey, who is also new to our team. The marketing department is just making it happen. So it's good stuff. I mentioned the dual simulators earlier in the Cove, so we are still in transition here, like a lot of things, supply chain gets in our way, right, Stephanie? Our intent was to actually have dual simulators here by this summer. Unfortunately, supply chain didn't allow for that, so we have soon, though, I think before the end of the month, one of the two cars will be here. So we'll have a brand new C7. Our sweet little C6 is going to be retired. She's real tired. She's real tired. And so we have a new C7 thanks to GM, and then we also have a C8. They've donated us these bodies to be able to have them converted into simulators. So thank you, Harlan. And so we'll have two. We'll probably have the second one in maybe in October, is that right? And then not only will we have two, because we have had days when you are waiting for an hour and a half to get in the C6. Yeah, oh my goodness, is right. And so we know that, one, the guests get frustrated with that. We don't want frustrated guests. And two, it's a revenue stream. So we needed to make something happen there. So we invested in building out the Cove, 2 new simulators. The total together would be $230,000. We'll make that back quite quickly, I promise you.
Hey, Sharon.
Yeah.
There's one other point. When those 2 simulators get put in, you can do head-to-head racing. So that'll be really fun. And I'll just give you one word of advice. Don't race Sharon. Right. We tried that once, and she won.
I beat him. He was talking smack before we got started.
I was just trying to be nice.
Here we go.
But I'm going to take you on again.
Okay. Game on, buddy, when we get up. All right. So I mentioned earlier, on top of the renovations to the physical store, we're in the process right now of rolling out a new e-commerce website. So for those of you that shop online with us, I'm hoping that's all of you, and many others, we'll have a whole new shopping experience. This has been quite an investment, not only in the dollars, as you can see, almost $200,000, but also in time. Staff have been working tirelessly to get this done. All new photography, all kinds of new merchandise, new videography, new wireframe construction in the background of the website in order for it to work better, to present better, so that you have a better shopping experience. And then, of course, being able to put the merchandise in a way that we think is the most attractive. We're super excited about this. It's going to launch October 2. And we had hoped to have it earlier than that, but again, if you're going to do something right, sometimes it takes a little longer than what you anticipate. So look for that October 2nd on an all-new e-commerce shopping experience. So now we'll flip over to the MSP. So as a part of, when you have a setback, you also have an opportunity. And so with that, Greg and the team said, look, we've been pretty well taken down. What are we going to do? Going to rebuild it back the way it was, or do we take this opportunity? And we all agreed we needed to take the opportunity. So with that, part of the opportunity was the pavilion and the day garages. If you went to the MSP prior to the tornado, you know that the concessions area was there, but it had not been finished or built out. Now it is. So it isn't a great photo, but because it's still under construction, but it should be ready very soon. You'll notice the new patio and the new area there on the right-hand side for the Kimberly A. Fast Pavilion. So a much better viewing opportunity. We also have viewing steps up to the deck. And then this picture is trying to show you the new concessions where we have venting for griddle and fryer, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll be able to have a full service concession opportunity for all of our guests, whether you're there for a day's driving experience or if it's a private rental for the track. This is a huge opportunity for additional revenue. Greg has already hired a new food and beverage supervisor. Our team here has been working with him on menu options and ways to make things much more profitable and also better what's the word I'm looking for? Volume in our pricing as we buy for both the Stingray Grill and for his operation. So look for good things to come there. Greg, do you have an idea of when you think the concession will be ready to roll?
Probably about another 2 to 3 weeks.
There you go. So it is coming together in time for the fall racing season. So we'll have that thing rolling, and I know Greg and the team are excited to have this new asset. Well, if one tornado wasn't enough, we just had the long-term garages repaired, and they were back up and running. And on March, was it the 8th, I think? Oh, 3rd. March 3rd, straight line winds. It was great. And so we looked around, and this was the damage. We couldn't catch a break in a 5-gallon bucket, I think, sometimes. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. So again, we took what was not a great day and we looked at it as an opportunity, because when we brought out the contractors to say, okay, how do we repair this, get it back? They said, you know, it would really be wise if we're looking at this again, there's some flashing elements that might actually help us in the future. So we decided to take that opportunity. If you've got it, let's fix it and fix it right. So we put in another $62,000 or so on all of the long-term garages that will hopefully help cut down on this. Because as you can imagine, if you really look at the lay of the land here, if we get the winds out of that direction, there's nothing to slow it down, right? So we decided, you know what, let's put $62,000 more into it, and let's see if that can help us not have to spend more money later. No additional insurance claims would be really nice about now. And I'm sure our insurance carriers would appreciate it too. And then the final piece, of course, we all know that we're going to be taking the opportunity to improve Holly Tower. So again, Greg and the team really spent a lot of time trying to figure out what could we do to upgrade the facilities. It's coming along nicely. If you haven't been over there, I'm sure that they would be happy for you to come over. Can't really necessarily put you in a construction zone, but he could at least walk you through and tell you what's going on. We're really close. There have been a lot of delays. Again, we talked about supply chain issues. We've talked about other issues. If you're building anything, I don't care if it's an addition to your home or if it's a major facility like Holly Tower, construction right now is a pretty tough business to be in, especially if you're on the other end when you want something finished. But it is coming along, and we hope that things will be finished up here pretty soon on phase, I guess it's considered phase 2, right? Phase 1 was the Kimberly A. Fast. Phase 2 is this piece. Phase 3 will actually be the new elevator shaft that you see there, the gray piece that's been added that was not there before, so that we can actually get folks up to the second floor by elevator if necessary to enjoy that viewing deck and some other great facilities like meeting spaces, et cetera, that Greg and the team have said this is what we need if we're going to make improvements. So those are coming along well. And yeah, it's a pretty good chunk of money, about $1.4 million, but it should be able to be paid back very quickly. The ROI there, as the track continues its positive momentum, is on the right track. So with that, concludes what we've been up to. A lot of great investments. And I would be remiss if I didn't recognize a few folks for what they've done to help us get there. But I'm pretty sure that Kai wanted to talk a little bit about, so how much was all that?
Yeah, you know, when we were preparing this presentation, which we also shared with the board of directors, it's always interesting when, you know, you do something, you do something, you do something, you do something, you do something. When you take time to go back and look at everything in a collective perspective, you can really get a different impression. And when you see what Sharon just went through, it's fantastic. We sat at her desk and we got a calculator out and we added all of what you just saw up, which is basically spend in the last 2 years. Was anybody adding it up in their mind? Do they care to take a stab at it? Tom, I'm going to pick on you. Did you kind of add up anything? It's 5 to 6 million. 5 to 6 million? Anybody else? 7? What was shown up here was $10 million in 2 years. And what's not shown on there, actually I'm going to take a step back. What was shown up here is $8.2 million. What's not shown on here are a lot of smaller projects that we have put in that are maybe 20,000 here, 30,000 there. The total spend over the course of the last 2 years was almost $10 million. And it's important to say that because you need to connect it to that financial chart that I shared earlier. If you then asked, how much money did we have to go get a loan for? The answer is
0.
Nothing. In fact, the Fortress balance sheet that we have, and this is public record, is about $29 million that we have. And it has grown over that same time. So we should all be happy that we have a very healthy organization that can make these kinds of investments. I would be honest with all of you, I have got questions about why are we doing this and why are we doing that? And I would reflect on a comment that Taj Jukter said. It was a number of years ago, maybe regarding, I think it was around, why did you do a mid-engine car? So when Taj says something, you know, Harlan, it's like, you ought to listen and maybe take notes and remember. Same thing with Harlan, same thing with Josh Holder, Ray in his new role when we have the leaders of the Corvette team speak. Sometimes some things stick. And what Taj said was that we need to respect the history. However, we need to look forward. So think of that with the grill. That's now the grill that used to be, you know, the
Designer.
Yeah, the restaurant that we had, and the other aspects. We know that we are making changes. However, remember that we have to find a way to go forward in a fantastic way. And we have to go forward with enough careful perspective that we don't just have a burst of energy, the adrenaline that's infused, that puts the long-term viability of this museum at risk in any way, shape, or form. And that's what the board works very hard, and the staff here works very hard. So I think that kind of puts a cherry on the top of the presentation, that we're doing a whole lot, and it's very healthy, and we're going to make some plans to do a whole lot more. Okay?
Indeed. I have to say thank you to the board. Everything that you've seen here, they give us a lot of questions. They put us through the rigors of all the things that you would expect them to do before we make these investments. So thank you to our board. The same is true for the NCM Holdings Board. As they come forward with the investments, we touched on some of them here. There are things that we do as well, being that we have the land and the buildings and all of that are our responsibility. So the Holdings Board also does a great job. And of course, my colleagues Greg Waldron and Adam, and of course, my very own KLT. I think most of them are here in the room. Stephanie, Mandy, Bryce, Brian, Ryan, they all rhyme. And so I just calling names. And without them, I couldn't do it. It is not me. They make it all happen. And every one of these investments, all of those folks are working tirelessly to make it happen. Please give them a round of applause. All right, that does conclude our presentation, although there is one more piece of business we need to do. So I believe John Radin and some others from the Lone Star Corvette Club are here.